when God reveals himself, you'll walk through all the persecution in the world because it's that real. And everybody wants to bring an argument. This is good news. It's not religion. God so loved the world. God so loved the world. He so loved pagans. He so loved people who are broken, people who are messed up, people in relationships that God didn't design, people who are confused about who they are. God so loved them in those moments that he said, I need to do something to help them. And he sent his son, Christ. And Satan has been so good at deceiving people to make Christ an offense instead of a door to be able to come and meet the God, the Father that loves them.
So you started making some waves this week on TikTok. We weren't on. You're the one who, it was your face on there.
Oh yeah, jump out of the boat now.
Yeah, it was, remember, last week we didn't have a podcast, but 2 weeks ago, if you guys remember, we talked about, does Satan punish people in hell? And we were reacting to a lot of demonic content that people are posting, and they'll just write off as weird or entertainment. And so we talked about some of the demonic realm and Satan's role. Mm-hmm. Does he rule? No, he's being punished in hell. And so one of the videos we reacted to was this guy. Well, that's you, but
yeah, it looks like me.
So this is the video that we posted, which has ended up getting like 500,000 views. People reacting. Well, we reacted to. Let me see if I can pull it up. This guy. He claims to have 3 different personalities: Emily, Emil, four. Emily, Emil, the Beast, and Jack. And so we reacted to that, and we'll just show this first part. If you guys don't remember, here you go.
We are also the Beast.
Just a little taste. So he has 4 personalities. We responded to it, and you had basically talked about, well, why do you think the pagans worshipped other gods? Because demons would animate objects, and that's what they were worshiping. There was power in that. And so what's interesting is this guy ended up responding and claiming that he actually was a Christian. And then we got it kind of twisted. He was showing on a video, he was showing his tattoo, which said saved, and he has a cross on him. And he said that these multiple personalities are actually a good thing, and they protect him from evil. So I'll you don't take my word for it. We'll see what he has to say about it. So here we go.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Emil. Hi, guys. This is Emily. We are also Beast. And Jack. After seeing this guy's video, I wanted to tell you exactly why this video is not accurate in our own opinion. One, we were raised Christian, which had nothing to do with us choosing to become a Christian. After 18, I looked into religion and actually chose to become a Christian myself. My 4 personalities have been with me my entire life. We are not dead and we are not schizophrenic, but the Beast is a protector. By any means, he is not a possession. The Beast is a possession, if anything, in a good way. We are Christian, saved. We do believe in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Our Beast actually protects against evil and kicks ass. Hopefully that clears that up for you guys. And we respect your videos, all of you. Thank you. I am Emil.
So what do you think about that?
Well, there's there are a lot of religious people that claim to be Christians. When you think of the Pharisees in interacting with Jesus himself, the Pharisees themselves said, well, we believe in God. And Jesus says, actually, you follow your father, who is the father of lies. Mm-hmm. Just because you say you believe in God doesn't mean you believe in God. Now, I believe without question that he can give his life to Christ, and Christ loves him, especially just the way he is. but he wouldn't leave him the way it is. You know, when God did not create him with multiple personalities, and he certainly doesn't need this beast that growls out of him to protect him. God doesn't need help protecting you. There is a Holy Spirit
That's good.
that God's given us to do that. And the Holy Spirit speaks certainly through us, but not as a beast.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit speaks. In fact, Revelation says there is a beast, and the beast is part of the Trinity of Satan. To the person who would respond and say that Satan's not even in the Bible, you don't read the Bible. Jesus himself refers to Satan multiple times. Even in the book of Job, we see that Satan comes and God asks him, what have you been doing? There's references to him on a number of occasions. And what you see right now that's going on is people, and even people who make, the guy's just crazy. That's how the world responds to things they do not understand. You know, when Jesus went to the demon-possessed man in the Bible, they had chained him to a tree and said the man is crazy. That they couldn't explain in the natural what was going on. And Jesus goes to him and says, who am I talking to?
Wow.
And the demons respond, legion. And Christ casts out the demons in the man, and the man falls. In fact, he interacts with the demons. So Jesus himself interacts with the demons. To say there are no demons, and then there's then those writing the book said they're watching the interaction with Jesus and this man.
Yeah.
And he's not talking as much to the man. He's not talking to the man. He's talking to the demons that are controlling the man. And the demons respond, don't send us back to the pit, essentially, but let us go into the pigs.
Wow.
And Christ gives them permission to go into the pigs, and then the pigs run off the hill, and they, the bad joke. I always say that's the first reference, the deviled ham. You know, they possess the pigs because that's what demons will do. And then the man falls to his face. He's completely normal in that moment and ends up becoming an incredible witness of what Christ had done for him in that area. And the people of that place, when they saw what happened, commanded, they said, you get out of here, Jesus. We don't want you here. But later Jesus comes back there, and there's this huge reception to Jesus when he returns. So there were many witnesses to what took place in this area. It wasn't just with the 12, it was with other people. You go to places like Africa and South America, this whole idea of demon possession, they get it.
Yeah.
Their understanding of it isn't movies. And, I've never seen Split. You kind of explained to me what that was all about. I've never seen it.
So the guy is like, it's about a guy who has a multiple personality disorder, and one of them is like the beast. And so he, through trauma or something, has developed all these different personalities to kind of like, to try to numb himself to whatever had happened to when he was a kid or something. And so the beast is the one that kidnaps these girls, and it's this movie where
well, I mean, they've had movies like that throughout history, I think, where they've this is not new, new to this the reality is that helps us cope so that we can make something natural that may be supernatural. That may be
explain it away.
I mean, it's crazy to me that people are more willing to believe in UFOs than they are to believe in demons, which throughout history we've seen. We've seen people literally set free from demons and go from having what they think is multiple personalities to being completely normal.
Yeah. So my question, because I always, when I'm looking at these videos, first of all, if people got it misconstrued that we were making fun of the guy. If you go back and watch the video, no one laughed. You didn't even say anything about that, like others were making fun of him. We just were talking about the reality of the spiritual realm, and people took it, well, that's so mean, that's judgmental. Show me where we we didn't say anything or made like faces.
If anything, it's sad.
Yeah,
Whenever I see people in identity issues and an identity crisis where they're not accepting who they biologically are, who they are as a person, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because you can't, in one hand, say you believe in a creator and then say, I believe this is who I am. The creator created us to be who we are.
Yeah.
We're not on a journey to discover who we are.
Yeah.
We're just to be who God created us to be. When we're no longer content with who God created us to be, there are things that are working against us to try to make us feel like we're not enough the way God created us to be. So our view of the Creator is often negative because he somehow messed up. Like God there's maybe you believe in a God, but he's not perfect, or he didn't know what he was doing, which is insane.
Yeah.
To think. And really, when you do that, you're saying, really, I'm God.
Yeah.
I know what's best for me. And
it's my authority.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to judge me?
Yeah.
So yeah, we weren't making fun of him, getting that straight. Also, so for this person, like, I'm just curious, because me, again, like trying to get in his head or the other people's perceptions of us think that we're judging. And he goes, listen, like, I'm saved. And I've always struggled with that. It's easier to tell someone that's just ignorant of the gospel than someone thinking that they're saved, thinking that they know it. What would you say to him?
The only thing in that video saying you're saved is, you can watch any video of Christians and they say, I'm saved. You can pick that up and just say, oh, look, I'm saved. I put it on there. The thing that's most interesting is he says the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And demons do not like that term. I mean, they don't want to refer to him because he is, they're under the authority of Christ.
Yeah.
But even the demons recognized who he was. So this idea of saying, just bringing up his name, most demon-possessed people would not bring up the name of Christ. You wouldn't see that name. The whole save thing and the tattoo of the cross is nothing more than a symbol of torture.
Wow.
There are all kinds, to show a cross of a tattoo to somehow claim that you have this relationship with Christ is absurd. It's like thinking because you prayed a prayer and asked Christ into your heart that you are now saved. The Bible is very clear. If you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is my Savior and Lord, you shall be saved. Not if you pray a prayer and then never interact with Christ ever again. I would make this comment I think a lot of people would have a hard time with. There are a number of people, you got saved because you were afraid of going to hell. And so when you have the option of heaven or hell, the best option is heaven. If you chose heaven because it was the obvious best option over torture, and you're not saved. The salvation isn't for those who know how to pick which is better than the other. Salvation is for those who believe Jesus died on their cross for their sins, so that which separated them from God was removed, so they could now have a relationship with God. Like Christ said, for God so loved the world that he gave his son, that all of the obstacles to having a relationship with God would be removed. And now we're in relationship with God. Heaven is a place for those who want relationship with God, not for those looking for excuses to get out of it, not for those looking looking to make excuses to not pray, excuses to not read the word, excuses to not be around the body of Christ. I think the grand deception of the devil and what we need discernment for is not knowing the difference between what is right and wrong, but what is right and what appears to be right.
That's good.
And I think a lot of people believe they're going to heaven because they have a cross tattoo or a necklace, or they declare, oh yeah, I believe that Jesus died on the cross for man's sin. The problem is you believe it, but you're not in relationship with him because of what he did on the cross.
Wow.
And I don't need to wear a cross to declare because my fruit that I have, the fruit of on my branches declares I have a relationship with God, that I'm in relationship with God.
Wow.
And my desire on earth is not to live as long as I can, and in heaven's my desire on earth is to live, because one day I'm going to be in the presence of God fully and completely, where it's a new realm, and I'm going to be with God forever.
Yeah.
And that is the thing of why I want to go to heaven, is because of what's in it, the presence of God that's there, just as there is the presence on earth. But it's not about escaping hell.
No.
It's about experiencing God's presence.
Yeah.
And so you can make all kinds of comments like this in some way make you feel like, oh yeah, I got it. And there's another part to this. I love this. The pagan that goes, I'm a pagan and I believe in Jesus Christ. Well, of course you do. You believe in many gods.
You want me to show that comment?
Yeah,
I just showed, so I showed Pastor James one of the comments that were on this video of this person, and one of his supporters was calling us ridiculous for, our claim. And we were talking about how this guy's there's like a possession or something going on here, and still like demons still exist. And her name being Priestess Angeline or whatever, she says right over here in the comment section, this guy is ridiculous. I'm a psychic. I was born with it. I was raised both Catholic / spiritual. I believe in Jesus, but I'm a pagan. I do not worship the devil. The devil does not exist in pagan.
Well, because the devil is your God. You wouldn't refer to the devil as they do in Christianity. You believe in many gods. If you're a pagan, you believe in many gods. And even in the days of the early church, the pagans of the early church did not have a problem with the Jews who became believers. They didn't. In fact, we have a series called 7 we're going through, and if you want more information, you can watch that online. It'll be on our online campus, or join on, and you can see this. We went to Turkey.
Yeah.
We actually talked with. We had guides that were not believers. Not believers in God. In fact, if anything, they were what they would consider themselves atheists. And they said in that day, the reason the pagans had no problem with the religion of the Christians of the early church, because they worshiped many gods. And in fact, the pagans of that day viewed the Christians of that day as being atheists because they only had one God. So, of course, as a pagan, you believe in Jesus. You believe there's lots of gods. I mean, you don't understand. So, but to understand Christianity, Christianity says there's only one God.
Yeah.
I will worship no other
There's
God.
no exceptions or compromises that we have the ability to make, like pagans can.
Right. To believe in Jesus, along as believe in Zeus and emperor worship, at that time was emperor worship, to believe in Domitian and Dionysus and all the other gods of that day, those gods were demons, and those demons were giving you power. So to the psychic, where do you think that psychic gift, you call it, or power comes from? It comes from demonic power. Exactly what this. So this whole crazy deception, they're like, let's look over here, look over there.
Yeah.
It's there. I look at it, I'm like, are you kidding? Is that your argument?
It's just it's so obvious. Like, I heard a quote when they were talking about, there was a guy that was in the New Age and was heavily involved in this. And he would have like these spirit guides he would meet with when he'd be like on LSD and stuff. And they would tell him like knowledge and give him like truth. And he goes, he talks about it because other people he'll talk about, but he's like, well, try to make sense of these spirit guides that teach me. And his response to this, he goes, the devil doesn't care if you have 100-foot leash, a 50-foot leash, 1,000-foot leash, just as long as you're on a leash and he's got control.
Yeah,
He'll give you as much as you want, just as long. It's like the demonic realm, what people don't understand. He'll give you whatever you want. And that's why they associate God with being bad, because he doesn't give me what I want. The devil will give you whatever you want, just as long as you never recognize your need of him. Yeah.
This whole thing happened. This whole turnover of our authority on earth was given over to the devil when man wanted whatever they wanted. It was all about a rebellion, and Satan, the spirit, is all about rebellion. Yep. But when you give your life over to Satan, there will be a day when even this priestess will get to a point and she'll realize that her freedom was actually her prison. and she can't escape it in your own power. I would say try to escape it. Try to walk away. You are not going to be able to walk away from what the enemy, because you sold yourself for what you were given. And how do I know that? Because I've talked to many, many people, and to that person who would say that, here, listen to me closely, because you will need this at one point.
Yeah.
The blood of Jesus and what Christ did on the cross when he shed that blood gave you access to escape.
Wow.
And no matter what you've promised to the devil, no matter what you've told him, he knows this, and you need to know this, that Jesus will always be your exit plan. You plan that stuff, and when you get to that point, when you realize that you're in a prison, and we've had many people that I know of personally that are even in our church. There are a few that I can even show you or have you talk to. And they went to Jesus, and the only reason they're free today from what they were in is because Jesus came into their life and set them free. And this will not make sense to people to the people listening who said, "Oh, this is just split.
Yeah.
This is just something natural. This isn't real." That's how you cope with what's going on in the world around us. The Bible's very clear. We do not battle with flesh and blood. There are principalities of powers, spiritual forces of darkness that are operating on the earth. And I don't know how you can believe in part of the Bible and not all of it.
Yeah.
And not accept all of it. It's just the reality. And so I thought that was interesting because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Do you not even know what a pagan is?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a pagan, and
the devil doesn't exist in in paganism. That was what I thought was funny. I'm like, we've said this before on the podcast, because Satanists will come at us and say, "Oh, stupid Christians, you actually, satanic panic," and they'll make fun of us. The devil's behind every bush. Why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah. You're trying to stay undercover. Of course you're going to do that, because you don't want people to get freaked out about it.
Yeah.
You're trying to subtly bring them in. You don't even, see, here's the thing. We're all on a path, born going to hell. That's exactly what we want. Satan is trying to recruit people to promote his message. Mm-hmm. And they always attack Christians.
Yeah.
So stupid Christians, I'm not calling them stupid.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's foolish. It doesn't even logically make sense.
Yeah.
You're not stupid. You're just deceived.
Yeah. And what they'll say is, "Oh, you really believe that we worship?" Because there's some that they'll call themselves satanic, but it's like an atheist, like humanistic, like religion. But I know people that literally would worship Satan, but there are some that'll be like, "You really think that?" It's more of like rebellion type cult, and that you think we worship Satan. I'm like, listen, like, it doesn't matter if you have like a figure in your room that you bow down to, and it's like Baphomet, and you literally talk to Satan. He doesn't care if you have a relationship or you don't. Like, you prove you worship him and follow him by the way that you live, and that's good enough. Rather, if you think he's real or not, doesn't really matter. You prove the way you worship by the way that you live. So that's always funny when they say, "We don't even believe in him." It doesn't really matter. Like, you show you worship him.
Here's a concept that I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
The Caesars in Rome ruled Rome, and at some point the Caesars became emperors.
Yeah.
And the emperors took on this image of, but when they would die, they would be elevated to this place of being gods.
Yeah.
And then you would worship the emperors of old as gods. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was Titus. It was one of the emperors that said, "Why should I?" Domitian, or one of the emperors said, "Why should I wait till I die to be worshipped as a god?"
Yeah, Domitian.
And he said, "I am a god." Now, this is true in Egypt as well. The pharaohs believed they were the sons of God. They take this identity as being the sons of God. And they wanted people to worship them as gods. What do you think celebrityism is?
Ooh.
What do you think? What do you think 38% of Gen Z that thinks the only way they're going to be successful is if they become a celebrity and people worship them as they do Taylor Swift? They all want to be seen that way. They want to be worshiped. And when you worship, you think, well, you got to take care of you. It's all about you. You got to think about you. What is that? You want to be a God. You want to be worshiped. I'm preaching on friendships, and a lot of the things, research that's being done is discovering that one of the hindrances the people in friendships is they want friends who kind of worship. And in essence, the questions they ask, they want someone who lifts them up. Someone who lets them go, it's all about, I need friends that feed into my God complex.
Yeah, wow.
And my desire. So when you get, a lot of this is all about getting followers to follow me.
Just agree.
Well, yeah, it's just, I need you to follow me.
Yeah.
I want you, and then look at how many friends I have. You're almost putting yourself up as a God to be worshiped.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I'm not trying to get you to follow me. I'm trying to get you to follow him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I must become less so he can become greater.
Right.
Yeah.
This is all about following our Heavenly Father. And if it's done right, you will forget the people who brought you the message, and you'll remember only him.
That's fire. So we've been, we've had just because how weird 2 weeks ago was with the podcast, I felt like there was a lot of dark stuff we were showing. I wanted to, bring a little uplifting content to your life, because I forced you to watch all those weird videos. And we usually always come against anti-Christian content. And so rather than that, I kind of wanted to show you some encouraging stuff. I already showed you like a sneak peek of some of them. I know you're not on the internet, so you don't get to hear about some of these like influencers that I've seen constantly, that there's like, it seems like more and more are coming out of the woodworks and giving their life to Christ. Some of the ones you would never even think, like this would be the last person. One of them that we're going to look at was an OF model. I can't say the whole thing on there because I don't want to get taken down, but would sell her body on the internet. And they show this clip of a podcast she was on saying the most, like really, raunchy things. And then it's like it transitions to after she got saved, and her it makes me want to cry when I watch it. So we're gonna watch a couple of these videos, and that's gonna be the final part of our episode, as well as during this right now. If you're listening, I would love for you guys to reach out to me and tell me your testimony. I would love to have you guys on the podcast, possibly to do an interview where we get to lift up the name of Jesus and give him glory for what he did in your life. So if you're like, hey, Alex, I would love to, be able to share what God did in my life. Do you mind if, we have a conversation about that? Reach out to me. I have the links in the description where you can reach out to me. You can email me at pastoralex@bethelsrock.org. And I would love to hear about that, or you can just drop a comment. So right now, as we go into all these testimonies, I would love to do an interview with you and hear about what God did in your life. So, okay, let's look at some testimonies. You ready to just feel good, not look at weird demon videos anymore?
Well, it's always good because God's doing way more than Satan is around the world.
Amen. Exactly why we're doing this. So this is the OF model that gave her life to Christ.
I love cheating. It's actually my biggest fantasy. So you'll never want to cheat on me. You'll be drained. Like there's nothing left in you to cheat. But I will cheat because I'm bored. I am so thankful that God truly met me where I was, because I now feel emotions. The minute God met me in my living room, I started feeling like it was crazy, because it was a phenomenon of years and years and years of being numb. It was like a puzzle piece with a piece missing, and that piece was like the best part of it, like the actual heart of it was gone. And I had this moment with God where I was like feeling all of this, and I was sobbing in my living room, but I was at my wit's end. I had everything around me. I lived in a 4,200 square foot home, which was like $3.5 million. I drove a Porsche. I had any designer bag that you could want. I have a ginormous closet. I have money doesn't matter. It did not bring me true joy. Like, you can be happy, like, oh, I just got a new bag, cool, but that's not joy. Like, the joy that the Lord gives you is like, well, one, he says it's your strength, but the joy that I have now is nothing compared to worldly happiness.
How cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an example of, I think, I was reminded of a video we had commented on about a guy who claimed to get saved, and then he was trying to, he's just chaotic. I don't know if you remember it. I don't remember what the video was, but the guy was like by this car, and we were, and I said, the dude's not saved.
Oh, you were talking about Lil Nas?
Yeah. He's not saved. He's trying to create this, this controversy it's all about getting people to worship him. And what you can tell about this and how you know it's genuine is she's trying to describe something she can't describe, but it's completely changed her life. And she's like, I can't even, and she's using illustrations that she herself, you can tell, is even, it's like, it's not even compared to that, but it's, if I were to describe, it's this puzzle piece. And then she says stuff that only if you get saved and experience it, when she says, I had all this stuff, I was pursuing all of that, and it made me happy when I got, but then it was gone.
Yeah.
And the difference between joy and happy, you can only know that. There's things she was saying that you would only say once you experienced it.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's evident, and that's what Christ does. And if you're in that place, you're in that rut right now, and you're listening to that, that's what Christ does. And you don't even have to be to the extreme of the other side that she was.
Yeah.
If you were raised in the church, and you've been going to church, but you have no excitement. It's part of your life, but the relationship isn't there. It wasn't that she went to church. It wasn't that she heard messages and how to behave better. What transformed her life was she let the Holy Spirit come and live inside of her, and he transformed her on the inside. It wasn't knowledge that sets you free. And if you're someone who's been on the outside of God, you think it's knowledge, and you don't understand how these people are so changed because you think it's knowledge, and I have the knowledge. It's not, knowledge isn't changing me. It's because it wasn't a knowledge, it's a person. She let a person into her life, and if you invite Christ into your life, he will put the Holy Spirit in you, and it will change everything in your life.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't planning on showing this one, but we had a video go pretty crazy. It was someone from our church. Now, TikTok, it got like 33,000, but on Instagram, it got 1 million. And it was Tommy's. And you're the guy in the video that he's talking about, that he had never heard this at a church before, and it completely wrecked his life. He had grown up. If you guys don't know his story, you can go back and watch his full testimony on here. As I'm doing the interview, I'm trying not to cry. Try watching a grown man, biker dude, talk about the love of God and how it transformed him. Like, you watch that testimony, it'll mess you up. It was a few episodes back. His name is Tommy. And he had never heard the love of God before until he came to B-Rock and was kind of pouting like, this guy is not going to change my mind. I know how the church operates. And his heart was so hardened because of all the judgment he had received in his life, and was stiff-arming anything that pastor, which was him, who Tommy's talking about in the video, was going to say. And then he heard something that he had never heard before that provoked him, and he encountered the love of God, and it changed his life forever. So I kind of wanted to, and then see if you, I don't know if I've shown you this, but to see if you even like remember this and kind of talk about.
Well, what's funny is I've heard about the fact that it went 1 million views, and I've actually had people, when I've been in other states, say that video of that guy, refer to it. I've never seen it.
Oh, you actually have never seen it. I thought I showed you it.
I've never seen the video of Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I see Tommy. I see what God has done in his life. It's profound what God has done. But I don't even know what the video is.
But dude, it messed me up. Like, and this was only, it did pretty decent on TikTok, but bro, on Instagram, it went nuts. It got 1 million on there, and people have been reposting it from other like big accounts. Like, so it's really cool to see the love of God literally just being like his story impacting so many people. It's absolutely incredible. But I realized, I'm like, I guess I never showed you this. And so I want to get your reaction, because you were the one that he's referring to in the video. So let's see if you remember this.
But the words out of his mouth were something that I have never, ever heard in a church before. I will never forget them. He says, nobody comes to church to hear what they've done wrong. You already know all that. And I was like, say what? He's like, I don't care what you've done wrong. God already knows what you've done wrong. He doesn't care. He just wants your heart. And this is the same reaction I had that day. Like, what? He loves you. What? What do you mean he loves me? I had to understand what it meant to have a relationship with God. God was a thing, a being. I had no idea that he wanted to be my father. I knew that we called him Father. My Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. I thought that was just all stories from thousands of years ago that had absolutely no bearing on today in our advanced society. And I had to explore it. I had to dive in. But the words out of his
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I'm already it doesn't get old. That's crazy. So that went around everywhere and impacted a lot of people's lives hearing that, maybe for the first time. So
yeah, it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember?
And I think it's more personal to me because I know what God's done in Tommy's life and in his family and his boy's life and what God's doing in their life. Incredible. When God reveals himself, you'll walk through all the persecution in the world because it's that real. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to bring an argument against because it's what they think. But this is good news. And when it's good news, don't you want to lean in? It's not religion. It's like our Creator at its purest form, for God so loved the world. God so loved the world. He so loved pagans. He so loved people who are broken, people who are messed up, people in relationships that God didn't design, people who are confused about who they are. God so loved them in those moments that he said, I need to do something to help them. And he sent his son, Christ. And Satan has been so good at deceiving people to make Christ an offense instead of a door to be able to come and meet the God, the Father that loves them. And it's so true. And I hope people who are listening to this recognize the fact that it isn't just for one individual. I know what Tommy was walking through. I know the guilt and shame that he felt. I know what he did. And to see God completely transform his life, he's a new person. And you could be too. Mm-hmm. If you just open the door and say, Christ, you may want to kill yourself. Don't do it. Yeah, the way it's going, and if you keep going down that road, I get why you want to end it all. But there's something more. There's something on the other side of Christ. There's something on the other side of saying, God, if you're there, this is the moment. This is that crossroad. I need a crossroad in my life. I need out of this prison, and he will set you free. He will. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. When he comes, he brings freedom. He'll change your whole life. And the number of people that, I think somewhere along the way, churches and pastors have gotten caught up more in how many butts are in seats than they are concerned about the condition of man. And our focus has to be is really on the people. That success in this is how many people we're rescuing from the kingdom of hell, the kingdom of this world. And we're setting on a path of the kingdom of life.
Yeah.
So that's my heart. Mm-hmm. It really is my heart. And I hope you understand. It's the reason why, Alex, we're online. Mm-hmm. It's the reason why Pastor Alex is out talking to people at endless hours of the day, trying to help them comprehend how much God loves them. And the reason we see so many people saved every single week is because people are searching. People do have ears to hear. People are tired of what the world is giving them, and they're looking for a way out. And so that's why we do what we're doing right now.
Exactly. Once you have an encounter, so many people reduce this whole thing, and he had reduced this whole thing, the man you just saw in the video, to growing up in the church, and that's all of what he had thought. He got a girl pregnant, while he was in school, felt a lot of shame, went into that shame and down that road where he'd become so hardened. And then he encountered God. One encounter with God, one touch from God changes everything. He gives you, I was talking to a guy.
And the thing about Tommy is, if you ask him biblical questions, he knew the answers.
Yeah.
He had all the knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had all the knowledge. I mean, the dude's smart.
Yeah.
You called him a biker dude. This dude, he's a biker dude.
Just tough guy. Yeah.
Road. Yeah. But he had biblical knowledge. He had it all.
Yeah. And it doesn't change. Like, I remember coming back, because I grown up in the church too. And from an early age, I encountered God. But your heart gets hardened by sin. When you rebel, like I feel like I know that very well, what that looks like. And that makes sense when it talks about in the Bible. And I've seen people where they had an encounter with God and they go into sin, and sin changed. Literally, they forget everything. It changes how they view themselves and their identity, and then hardens their heart. And that's what happened to me. And one encounter with God, I tell people, I'm like, it was no classes. It was no biblical knowledge. I encountered him and I became an evangelist. And when I went to my friends back home who were Catholic, who would share my same excitement, they were like, bro, you're crazy. Like, you're weird. Like, it doesn't. And then I realized, wow, there is a difference. So you can have head knowledge, but until it makes its way to the heart and you have a revelation or a touch from God, like, you're dead. Like, it doesn't.
Right.
It's dead. It's dead faith. So, and that's not to say it's all about feelings.
That was proven when the Pharisees had all the Bible knowledge they needed, and the Son of God was right in front of them, and they couldn't tell because they had knowledge, but they didn't have a relationship with God to even see God when he was standing in front of them. Mm-hmm. You know, we're talking about this in the 7 series, and you really should watch if you're online and you want to know more about the church and what Christ saw as the church. But the church of Ephesus, I mean, they had all the head knowledge. They were the church. They were doing all the conferences. They were writing the books. They were sending people out to plant churches. And Christ says to them, you need to return to your first love. Which, what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's not... You know, when you get married, it wasn't referring to, and I hear a lot of people preach, well, that means that you go back to the infatuation you had when you first got married. Because most people, when they get married, are not in love. They're infatuated with each other. A vast majority of them are infatuated with each other because they have these feelings for one another. Love is not a feeling. It is a commitment that you make with one another. It's why people stay together in their 60s when they can't do for the other one, why they wipe their butts when they have strokes, and why they visit them every day in the nursing home, because love isn't what I get out of this. Love is something that you do. Infatuation is about, so when you all of a sudden no longer have infatuation, you think, well, I'm not in love with you anymore, so let's leave. Yeah, you're not the one anymore. Now I have an infatuation for someone else. You don't know what love is if you think infatuation is love. It's not that type of emotion or feeling for that person. And in it says you need to return to your first love. What he's referring to is all of these people who have persecuted you, you now hate, and you need to go back to loving them. The Bible commands us to do things that it's not humanly possible without the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And that's why you see so many Christians, and really this is a fruit of a believer. And if you're watching, why is it so many people persecute Christians? They're the most persecuted religion around the world. Not even close. For really no reason. And yet, those Christians will love you back. And that's they will know you by your love for one another. That's the first love. And that's what Jesus was saying. The identifying characteristic of a believer is that they love even their enemies. They love those who persecute them. And you can't do that. in your own power. You can't do that in your strength. So most Christians think, well, I don't know how to do. Well, because you're trying to depend on your own willpower rather than allow the Holy Spirit to do that within you.
Yeah. That submission is crazy. Like that type of, like we had a guy that reached out and was like, we have people that send threats all the time. But this one, which you know what I'm talking about, that ended up calling me. I thought he was like normal until he started getting on the phone and just was like cussing me out up and down the wazoo. And then he was calling me again. You're like, answer the phone. And then we literally had a prayer meeting in our campus pastor meeting and started just praying in the Spirit, praying in tongues over this guy for a straight 15 minutes. And this dude is making animal noises, cussing us out up and down, saying he's going to bring a pew to the church and get our congregation, and was going to, if we sent police to his door, he was going to do that. He was listing off family members. And so I remember after it, you can act and like laugh it off. But it was, I don't know what it was, but it was like the realization that what if we lived in a world like, and if I was in Iran, if I was anywhere else, imagine the government. Like I can know that the government's on my side, and I can take that, which I did, to the police and tell them, hey, this is what's going on. And I can feel like that support. Like I was picturing like the early church, or if I lived in that, would I be able to endure that, where people are threatening my family? People are literally like, they act not just verbally, but literally want to do that to me. And I have to love them. Like I remember the first feeling, like I told you, I'm like, I wanted to hurt him. Like there was this anger that rose up in me. Like I can't even, it is that type of submission and humility and love for God, not for him. This love for God that allows you to conquer evil, but there's no way, no shot. You try going through that you think it's a personality trait or a kindness that you can extend to someone, you will not be able to go through it. But it's that like, and I realized I didn't have it, when you're actually faced with that, it's this like, what type of love and knowledge and revelation of God would lead you to love someone like that?
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
To be able to forgive them because they know not what they do.
Yeah. Is
such a testimony of God's love. Even for those who, it's this love that says the sin that you commit against me will not be held against you, because I won't allow it to be a sin. I won't allow what you're doing to me to be a sin that you'll be held accountable to. And, the Bible says if you forgive them, they will be forgiven. We're saying, so they'll go to heaven if I forgive them? No, what he's saying is those sins will not be held in their account because you've forgiven them. Yeah. And, ultimately Christ said, I've purchased all the sin. We haven't. Yeah. So he's purchased it all, and he can forgive them for everything. But I can forgive them for what they've done against me as a sin, and it's forgiven. Mm-hmm. It's as though they've never committed it. Because that's our nature as Christ followers. Yeah. That's what we do as Christ followers. And, you say, well, then we're just going to be floor mats that people walk over. Yeah. The reality is, and I love this in the story of David and Goliath. And you say, well, he went and killed Goliath. Mm-hmm. Let's look at another part of this in the defense of all of this. Mm-hmm. Goliath had to wear armor. He's huge man in comparison to David. He puts on all of his armor and he's making threats, but he's wearing armor. David doesn't put on armor and therefore is far more agile than Goliath. And you say, well, but he's more vulnerable. Was he? Or did he attack Goliath in the protection of God? That God was his defense. And in fact, David says this often in the Psalms, you defend me. David was able to be on the offense because we're more than overcomers. Over and over, he offensively attacked situations with the expectation and faith that God would defend him. Wow. That I don't need to defend myself with my persecutors. God will defend me. Yeah. He'll protect me. God's blood will cover me. That even like we give Satan way too much authority, or we believe he has far more authority than he does. Yeah, exactly. That when Satan confronts us, he's not confronting the defense that I have against him. He's confronting who I carry, who's far greater than he is. And I've said this before, when Paul says that Jesus was put in a body below the angels, but then exalted in heaven above all things, right? Given all authority. We, like Christ, were below the angels, but we're not below the demons. We're not below Satan.
Yeah.
We have authority over Satan and his demons, but a lot of Christians and a lot of people that believe in God, they don't live like that. They're almost afraid of it, as if they have so they try to avoid encountering demons, when in reality, when you have the understanding and belief of what the scriptures say, the demons are trying to avoid you. Because those who they know you have authority, they lose those battles. They're really coming after the people who don't believe in that. And there's proof to that. I mean, Lester Summerall, who's now passed, tells a story of the authority he would walk in when it came, like he would literally walk into Buddhist temples and weird things would happen in the temples and they wouldn't know why. Because the demons were subject to the Son of God on earth.
Was I telling you about the guy I've been discipling? How he had this encounter. I'm trying to remember if I'm like repeating myself.
No,
I
don't.
Okay. So he initially was in, I told you this part. So he, we meet every week and just gave his life to Christ. He's only he's a baby Christian, only like a year and didn't grow up in it. So he's learning all this stuff and it's so like new to him. So he's got the knowledge, but he's like learning how to do the faith part of it. And his identity is like a believer. And no experience in the spiritual world, anything. Like that's cuckoo, And he had told me, I think I told that story, what you were talking about, how this guy, that missionary that had a demon sit on his bed and he like wakes up and then he goes, oh, it's just you. And he goes back to sleep. You know that story you always tell? Yeah. So I was telling him that, and I was telling him, I don't know what verse we were looking at that brought all this up, but I was talking about the authority that we have and the peace of God that we can have because of our authority. And I shared other stories of people that I've talked to that have been scared about this stuff, but they shouldn't because of who they are. That we talked about the difference between power and authority, that Satan holds power, but he has to stop at authority. And we have been given authority by Christ, and he has no authority over us. So talking about this and different stories that I've heard from people online with these demon encounters, but only to encourage, not to like scare. And he goes, I think when I've shared that, he was feeling like, okay, I feel like I can tell you this and you don't see me as crazy. He goes, so I had, which I told you, he saw that dark figure in his corner. And he had not told me for 4 months. Like we had been meeting like every week and didn't tell me because he thought I was going to, he just didn't even want to verbalize it because it was so weird.
Right.
So then we told him how to encounter that next time. Like, the demon? Like, you know who you are, bro? And started just encouraging him in who he is as a child of God and the authority and the blood of Jesus who covers him. I'm like, you tell that demon to get out. Like, he can't touch you. And so then this was like a month later, and it just happened the night before we were meeting. He told me, he goes, I had a dream and I was on a road and there was one car that crashed on my right and hit a tree. And then there was another car that crashed on my left and hit a tree. And so then I stopped my car and I was like I got to call 911. So he picks up the phone, calls 911. His grandpa answers. And he goes, oh, so-and-so, like, it's so nice to hear your voice. How are you doing? And my buddy was like, I just felt this like dark, like presence. Like I knew it wasn't my grandpa. Like there was just something wrong about it. I just sensed it. And as soon as they were exchanging dialogue, he goes, the demons are coming for you now. And then he like woke up. And then he started claiming, oh no, it was actually in his dream. He hadn't woke up yet. So in his dream, as this dark presence started to just like manifest, he starts saying, I belong to Jesus. I belong to Jesus. I gave my life to God. Like in the name of Jesus, leave. I belong to Jesus. And then it left and then he woke up. And he goes, I'm like, dude, he like literally was walking it out. Like he put it to practice and he's like, they have to submit to me. And he goes, first of all, he goes, what the heck is going on? I have never encountered any of this stuff. And then I start following Jesus and I've never had this many spiritual encounters before. He's like, what the heck is going on? Is this normal? Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I mean, it's like people are walking blind.
Yeah.
Through a world that has things. There's a book called Return of the Gods by Khan, and he even refers to the return of the spirit realm to the earth in America, and how he identifies a lot of things that are happening, and he goes back to the era of the pagans where they would worship gods, and it was just a natural part of culture, and how it's returning right now back to our culture, and Satan is trying to subtly introduce it through a lot of different, where we're willing to just give our life over to things. There will be a return of this awareness of the spirit realm, especially during COVID. The number of high school students during COVID that were opening the door to Wicca and Satanism, literally just, and we had students we talked to, and they said it was going to give me control over other people. This sense to be able to control them, this sense of the promise of fame, the promise of endless wealth, the promise of control, and you say, well, boy, that seems evil that they would even want that, and yet that's been around for a long time in people's hearts.
Oh yeah,
they want to be able to manipulate and control people to do what they want, because it's all about me.
I want influence. Yeah, that's what I want.
I want to be worshipped.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, we got a couple other videos I'd like to look at. I just thought that was really cool. Yeah, understanding the authority that you have. Yeah, demons, whatever. But if you belong to Christ, they're under your feet. So we got a couple more I want to look at. This one's pretty cool. I've seen this guy. I started seeing him around 2020. I think 2020 he got saved. And he's been pretty relevant and blowing up in the Christian sphere. His name is Bryce Crawford. And dude is a fireball for Jesus. He's going out. He's going to furry festivals, like, the people that dress up like animals, like in furries, and he's going to witnessing to them and telling them about the love of God, going to pride like parades, and dude just got radically set on fire for Jesus. And so this is his story of what all changed for him in his life.
It was on Christmas, December 25th, 2020. I'll never forget the date. I'd had thoughts of taking my own life. It was just buildup of anxiety and depression over the years, and I struggled with feeling loved. I was like, this is the day. Like, I'm fed up. And so after we got done doing Christmas with our families or whatever, I love Waffle House. It was the only thing open on Christmas. And I just told my parents, I'm just going to go get Waffle House for a snack. And so I went to kind of get like my last meal. I walk in, slam packed. Everybody's there. So I grabbed this random guy. I'm like, hey, I'll pay for your meal if you sit with me. I'm just trying to eat right now. He's like, okay. And as soon as we sit down, he starts dumping his life problems on me. My wife's divorcing me. She's taking the kids from me, taking my money. I got nothing left. I'm losing it. I'm hearing some, not hearing everything. And then I just hear him say, I love my wife. She doesn't feel the same about me. There's no growth in a relationship if the love isn't mutual. When he said that, it was just like an arrow struck my heart. I'm like sitting there and I felt like the whole world stopped. The head knowledge I had about Jesus was just flashing in my brain. Growing up in church, I would memorize the verse of the week so I could get a prize out of the treasure box. All these scriptures I'd memorized when I was a little kid flashing through my brain. Like all these things, just supernatural understanding. After I have this moment, I kind of freak out, throw money on the counter like to pay for the meal, and I just like walk out. I went in my car and I was just like, God, if you're real, take away my anxiety and depression. Since that day, sitting here, no more anxiety or depression. And so instead of taking my life, I gave my life to somebody who wanted it.
That is so cool. I thought that's amazing.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Yeah. The way he just talking to like a random guy, and he goes, well, the love has to be mutual. It's like the light bulb just pierced his heart. Like, oh, it's a two-way thing that people think, we want.
What's interesting, the guy is probably not a believer.
No.
Talking to him, ministering to him, and he doesn't even know. God is using an unbeliever to minister to someone who's going to give. It's amazing to what extent God will go to find somebody, or not to find them, to bring them to discovering who he is.
My dad, you guys that aren't familiar, he was on our podcast a while back. You could probably find his testimony. It's my parents and their story. But my dad relapsed and had been back and forth my whole life in drug addiction. And one of the things, a part of his testimony, was drug dealers would literally prophesy to him. when he's in drug houses, there would be people that would prophesy to him and repeating things that what God was telling him. And it would freak him out. He's like, what is going on right now? Like drug dealers are like, you can't be here. Like, or would get a word from God and like speak to him. Like he's like, it was so crazy. Like God spoke through a donkey. He can speak through anybody.
Yeah, right.
Like it was warning him, and God had so much mercy on my dad's life and would use people you would never think to speak to him and get a hold of his life. It's crazy. The love of God. Like I don't think people, you don't quite know. Odds are you don't hate God. You just don't know him.
Yeah.
So,
well, and if you keep stiff arming the God, I mean, what I guess people, they try to approach God with like it's a religion, and that's all they can envision it as. So they stiff arm, all of the Christians they know that are attacking them. It almost makes them feel better. It's like one day they'll stand, if God's real, one day I'll stand before God and I'll say to God, listen, I would have believed in you, but I watched this video. This guy called himself a Christian. And this is what he said. And I watched this thing and we'll blame all the other people that we watched as they were hypocrites. And that's why I couldn't come to you. And he's going to say, but why didn't you come to me? Like, why didn't you talk to me? And I would have brought people to you that you would have. Why wouldn't you? Because you don't see God as a God that's here. You think God's by proxy, and it's only through, like, God is a personal father. God, just like he did, God spoke to him through an unbeliever in that moment, and he had been called, and God spoke to him through whatever mouth he could get in that moment. But if you want to discover God, you say, God, I believe you're real.
Yeah.
Now reveal yourself to me. I want to know who you are. If you will give him permission to do that in your life, he will.
Yeah, you want to know, that's the biggest excuse that I hear, where you'll blame, the church, they're just hypocrites. That's why I don't go to church. Or, Christians,
they were never in church. Most of those people, you say, oh, really? What was it about the church what church did you go to? Tell me. Well, I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't remember the name.
You've never had the experience of the church being hypocrites. This is the crazy thing. If you're stop using what you think your friend's experience was as your experience. Stop saying that the church is hypocritical because your parents had an offense against it, and that's what they told you should think. You need to experience God, then experience the church through God.
Yeah.
Once you experience the church through God, your view of the church will quickly change. Believe it or not. Yeah. I mean, certainly there's places out there that don't know how to cook food. I mean, just because you had a restaurant that makes terrible hot dogs doesn't mean there isn't ever a restaurant that makes hot dogs. Yeah. That's another insane thing, that every church is going to be a healthy and a good church. It's just not the case. Just like not every restaurant is going to be a good restaurant. You're going to get food poisoning at some restaurants, but you don't, and it's likely Chipotle. Like the number I've gotten food poisoning there, right? So I don't ever go back there. Yeah. But I don't say, because I got food poisoning at Chipotle, I don't go and then say, I don't go to any restaurants because I got food poisoning at one. It's an insane, not even realistic argument to make. Yeah. That there is, like, literally, that when you come to Christ, you don't need a church to come to Christ. You come to God, you come to Christ, and then Christ will lead you to the church that you need to be in that will help grow you.
Yeah. And it's just one of the biggest excuses. I heard someone say, he was a business owner. He had told me, he had made that excuse to me and was talking about, just Christians are hypocrites and this and that. And, I got the thing is, you always hear, I got my own relationship with God where I'm at. Odds are, like, I don't buy it. But I was like, how would you feel if you were judged by your business was judged based on your employees' work? Let's say you hired some like high school or college person or someone that didn't really care because they don't have ownership or pride because it's not really their company. And so they're just a hired hand, and they ruin a customer relationship. And that customer views your company in a certain way because of what this employee had done, this part-time employee that's just trying to make some extra money on the side, but has no pride in what he does, and they judge you based on this person. Like, you'd be pretty upset about that. You'd be pretty frustrated. Like, how do you think? Like, you can make that excuse all you want, but at some point you got to stop living off secondhand experiences. Like, taste and see that the Lord is good.
Yeah, they're probably not only living off secondhand, it's probably third, fourth, fifth, sixth things or something they saw online.
Yeah, that's more so the case now, more than ever.
They just perpetuate things they have no experience with.
Yeah, and we've said this before, but I know we've used it way before, but it goes to this point of a secondhand experience. We have a person in our body that came from Cuba and lived here in the United States. And what he had always seen online and from the news, and his assumptions that he had built up of what America was that everybody was toting around pew-pews everywhere. And there was, shootings going on all the time. And so when his wife asked him to go for a walk, he's like, "Are you crazy? Like, it's the Wild West out here." But this is like, when he had got here, that's literally, he had never been there, but he had this idea of what America was.
Based on propaganda
based on the internet.
That was shown to him. For sure.
It's so crazy. So when you make judgments about God or church, every time I get online, I'm like, I'm not arguing with anybody. This is not debate club. If you're looking for truth, I'll tell you it, and I'll talk to them blue in the face until it makes sense. But I'm only offering an invitation. I can't change your heart. And I'm offering an invitation for you to taste and see that the Lord is good. And hopefully I can dismantle some lies along the way that are preventing you from taking that first step. So this is an atheist. His name is Ryan Trahan. He's an influencer online as well that gave us, like I told you, there's been a lot of influencers that have been coming out of the woodworks, and God is wrecking people's lives that have massive platforms on the internet, and they're able to share their testimony in spaces that Christians do not belong in. So this is pretty incredible.
I was atheist, cynical atheist even. Whenever I would talk to Christians, I was always very questioning their beliefs. I realized it all came from a place of non-closure with my grandma of I just really want to know. I started taking a lot less cynical approach towards asking questions. Cynical. I was atheist. Cynical atheist even. Whenever I would talk to Christians, I was always very questioning their beliefs. I realized it all came from a place of non-closure with my grandma of I just really want to know. I started taking a lot less cynical approach towards asking questions, just starting to pray and starting to ask myself, what do I believe? Ultimately, I did land on Jesus. I can't believe I'm saying that, bro, because I literally would have absolutely clowned on myself 3 years ago. Whenever I started looking at who Jesus was, I realized wow, this is so loving. And if I can potentially have a relationship with him, I'm just going to try. Now it is my source of joy. It is my source of love. It is my source of everything. Because I have that, I can go out into the world and do unto others what I feel I already have.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's happening is when you actually invest in trying to figure out, because I think a lot of people who are they're not just trying, they're trying to promote something. They're trying, some of these guys are trying to help or walk with people through things. And when they have to stop and consider, what is it I really do believe?
Yeah.
That in these discussions that, you hear a lot about deconstruction. There's a lot of atheists going through deconstruction. There's this whole idea of, let's take a serious look at what I believe and what makes sense in all of this thing. And so God is there, and the Holy Spirit is revealing himself to people, and it's pretty cool to watch that happen.
Yeah.
And that's why Christians should be ready. You should be on the offensive. You should be ready to go and begin sharing your faith and not hesitate to do that, because you've been told that nobody wants to hear it. But the reality is, so many people are waiting for someone to tell them about a life-changing message. They're looking for something that will deal with their loneliness, that will deal with their anxiety and their depression. And as Christians, we have such a low self-esteem as the church that what we have has the power to overcome the enemy in people's lives. The greater is he that is in me than he that's in the world. The power inside of me that raised Christ from the dead, the Holy Spirit that raised Christ from the dead, is inside of me, able to raise people from their death. Yeah. And if you believe that, your esteem as the body of Christ should be in that, and we can operate in that.
Yeah. I was trying to find, when you said that it sparked something, but I don't think I have it on here. It just made me think of a video that I came across that later I was going to save for another reaction, but it was this Gabby, I think her last name is Hannah. I can't quite remember, but she was a big part of David Dobrik's live stream and like a Vine influencer. And she talks about, like, she recently has come to Christ as well. And it's like, why didn't anybody ever tell me? Like, I can't remember anybody telling me, not just to believe in Jesus, but no, this life is better with him. Like, it wasn't just, oh, believe and you'll go to heaven. It's like, no, life is just better following Jesus than the life that you're living now. Like, I know it sounds fun, but this is actually better. She's like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody tell me that.
So I was a teenager, and I may have told this story in the past, but I was a teenager, and I may have had my driver's license, I don't know, it may have been right before, like 14, 15 years old. And I was raised in the church. And I had a number of friends in high school, many of who we would talk about God, but they weren't believers.
Yeah.
There was one of my friends in high school. We were all kind of part of a friend group. One of them was a believer. Actually, two of them were believers, but we were all friends, and there's probably 10 of us in total. And two of them were twins. Mm-hmm. And they were in a divorced home, and their mom was working a lot. She was a hard worker, and she would, provide. But they lived not far from my house, and I had walked down to their home, walked into the house, and I'd been a Christian, genuine Christian. I would pray. I was reading the Bible. I mean, I had a relationship at that point in time with the Lord.
Yeah.
And I walked into their house, into their room, and I had done that many times before, but this time when I walked in the room, I felt something leave me. And I couldn't explain it, but it was like I didn't feel peace anymore. It was like I felt depression.
Wow.
I felt, it was to the point where I was almost nauseous. Like, it was almost as though I saw stuff. I don't know how to describe it. It was just empty inside. And I went in like I had done every other time. I sat down, and they're talking. And as they're talking and we're interacting like we had always interacted, nothing demonic, nothing any different than before. The whole time I'm there, I'm not in the conversation. I'm trying to figure out what's going on inside of me. And I walked out of that house. I had to leave, and I didn't tell them what was going on, but I got up and I walked out. I was there maybe an hour, but I couldn't handle it anymore. I walked out, and on my way home, I'm walking home feeling all of this. And as I'm walking home, I'm like, God, I just started praying, like, God, what's going on? What is this thing that, I feel disgusting. I feel like just incredible, like just depravity, almost like darkness. I don't know how to describe it. And the Lord spoke to me in that moment and said, this is what they feel like because they don't have me. It's like, you've known this for so long in your life.
Wow.
You've never tasted. You don't remember.
Wow.
You didn't know what it's like when you don't have me. And in that moment, I understood that's why people would use drugs. We attack people. We look at them as losers because they do that. But they're trying to compensate for that feeling inside of me. So now when I see people, I don't look at them with judgmental eyes. I look at them with compassion. And I think that's why Christ looked at people with compassion, is because he was aware of what life is like without Christ. And when people understand who Christ is, they experience, when they wake up in the morning, they wake up in the peace of God. When they live in the joy of the Lord. Yeah, negative things happen, bad things happen in life, and they're hard, and when people die, we go through the grieving process, but we do it with a supernatural strength.
Yeah.
That we often take for granted. And you don't even know it's there until you have this window of time where you taste what it's like to be in darkness.
Yeah.
And it became in fact, even when I was telling the story, I was just remember how awful it felt. You couldn't describe it. It was in that moment that I became far more bold about sharing Christ to those friends and that didn't know him. Because if that's what you're feeling, what kind of friend am I to not share what it's like to be in Christ?
Yeah, because you think you're bothersome. That's the main thing. Like we went out, we were at the Minnesota Gopher campus, and the University of Minnesota. And one of the guys I've been discipling, I brought him along with. And one of the things that keeps people, and I know because I think of myself, like I don't want to bother them. I don't want to like take away their time when I'm going out and we're witnessing and stuff. You know, it's just gonna like, you know, like it's always the first one that's the most like. Still, I get like kind of like anxious going out.
Like you're the Verizon guy or AT&T guy at Sam's Club when you walk in.
Yeah, literally. That's a good point. Where it's like, you know, they're like coming.
I feel bad for them. Like, dude, I know you want another job because you know they're feeling that way.
So many rejection. That's a good way to put it. And so I told him, I'm like, because it's funny because I'm telling him, but it's also like reaffirming what I already believe. And I'm like, bro, listen, like what's going to help you with your confidence going and telling people about the gospel is you understanding what you have is far better than what they have. What keeps you insecure is you thinking that like they don't need it. But you got to understand like what they're in. They think that it's better. They think the way they're living is the way, but they have nothing to compare it to. You're introducing them and giving them something that is far better. The way and the life that you live is far better than what they have, and they need what you have. And there's a different type of confidence that comes over you where you're like, no, you need this.
Yeah.
Like you need what I have.
Yeah. It's like an example of is when you don't know there's something better.
Yeah.
So you assume there is nothing better until somebody tells you, I experienced something better. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, why haven't these, you know, I've remodeled a number of our homes, and I would install doors in many of those homes I remodeled. We would install doors, and my dad taught me how to do it at a young age. So I would install it, and you shimmy it, and you level it, and you're squaring it up. And I go to Home Depot and I said, yeah, I need some shims. And he says, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm installing a door. And he goes, I got something that you might really like. And my initial reaction was, I'm not interested because I already know how to do it. Like there's nothing, this is the way to do it. I know how to do it, but I didn't. And he's like, I got these brackets. Believe me, they're going to be amazing. You'll be shocked at how it will help you install that door. Dude, I don't know why somebody didn't tell me about those two houses before. Like, I got those brackets, and I'm like, how you can't? I mean, anybody can install doors now with these brackets.
Yeah,
it was so easy to do that. And my initial reaction was, don't tell me what's better out there. I already know what I'm doing. Like, there is nothing better. And fortunately, I didn't open my mouth. The wisdom, maybe a sign of wisdom, and it changed it. Now I'm like, dude. You may not want to hear this, but there are brackets.
Yeah, you're telling everybody. Like
when you install that door, there are brackets.
Yeah.
Go to Home Depot, there are brackets. You know, and I think that's just the way you go online and you hear from people that there is no other way. That there is no. But the Bible says there's a new and living way. That Christ, when he died on the cross, created a new and now living way, not a religious way like was of the past, a living way that makes the person who could not succeed in this successful in this walk. He does the work in us. So
God with us, which is interesting. With anyways, we gotta. I know we're coming up on time because we have Bible in a year right after this.
Yeah, that's right.
But I was reading a book. It's called Dominion, and it talks about how Christianity influenced the world and we don't even understand how much that is, and so. Pagans and other people think Christianity is a detriment, but it's actually because of Christianity that we live in the world we live in today and how much it's impacted. And one of the things they go through different theologies through the empires and the time and what people believed and thought. And one of the things of the Greeks was there's a word, it's like parousia or something like that, where God would be with them, that their gods would walk among them, that one of the things with the Greeks is the idea of a God dwelling with you and then you understanding and discerning his will and the way you should live your life was so foreign because the gods were so chaotic, spontaneous. They were moody. They were changing. They were like egotistical. So the idea of Jesus, one, dying for our sins in a humiliating way unlike anything that they've ever encountered. And two, dwelling within us and teaching us is something that they desperately sought after and desired, that they, in their Greek mythology, that's not what their gods provided or did. You had to manipulate or leverage in order to get from them, but they wouldn't willingly teach or guide. It's really, it's just really interesting, the gift that we have in Christ. And if there's any of you that want to tell us about your story, I would love to have you on the podcast. And you don't have to just be here. We have the ability to be able to stream you in. More than anything, I love getting to hear people's testimonies and being able to put that out for others to enjoy. And what I think of it, like every time I record a testimony, I always tell people when they sit down with me, I feel like it's like putting one in the chamber against the forces of darkness. Right. And so if you want to help us do that, and I would love to have an interview with you. So you can email me.
Yeah, ammo, blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, how we overcome.
That's how we overcome. And so I would love to hear your testimony. So you can email me, pastoralex@bethelsrock.org, or you can leave a comment, and we'll figure out how to get your information. There's ways to do that, and I have it all in the description for you to be able to reach out to me. But anyways, God bless you guys. We're glad that you joined us for another podcast, another episode. We pray this encouraged you, uplifted you, equipped you for you to go and reach the lost and tell people about this message and this good news, because it is good news. God bless you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button. And if you're listening on audio, make sure you give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Music. It would mean the world to us. God bless. We'll see you next time.